Hello, it's Paul Hamilton here from UTB. We're going to make this beautiful indigenous design kind of inspired surfboard with Procreate 5.2. So we're going to texturize and color directly on the surfboard itself. Going to be super cool. Going to show you some new skills in Procreate. You can see here I've got this kind of gecko lizard kind of feel. So let's go back to Procreate. We're going to grab the 3D surfboard that comes with Procreate 5.2. Here we go. Let's start with this. And what we're going to do to start with is I'll show you a couple of things up here. I'm going to work with my layers tool quite a bit up here. So I'm going to hit my page. You can see the layers and you can see the surfboard. I'm going to create a new layer. Now I could do a couple of things here. I could start going directly to my Blackwood brush, which I absolutely love. It's a gorgeous new brush with Procreate. And I could select a color and start basically designing and coloring directly on it. So I could choose any color that I want. If I go with a bit more of an indigenous kind of color, natural color palette, I could do that. I could go with kind of dark reds or dark browns, and I could select a really big brush over here. And then I could just basically start doing some big kind of brush strokes from side to side and create. And you can see it's a beautiful brush. But sometimes I don't get the kind of color that I actually want in regard to what's coming down. So I've kind of got that black color. It looks great. But what I might do is I might just drag a black directly onto it and then select a new layer to go over the top. So sometimes if you're working with kind of lighter colors, you might like to, so if I've got kind of like a dark maroon brown color now, and if I create a new layer over the top of that black fill, it's going to give me some different, I guess, colors that are actually coming through. You can see there it's a kind of a little bit darker that I actually want there going forward. So little tip, you might like to color your surfboard and do a blank color, like a color fill first by dragging the color directly onto the board if you feel like you're going to use lighter colors or darker colors and so forth. Now, don't forget to create a new layer for each brush. Even with your color fill, it just gives you that ability to kind of brush directly over the top of it. So I'm going to start with kind of like a black fill because I kind of want that black base color there. And then I'm going to start to play around with oranges and reds and so forth and just go directly over the top to give me that nice feel. Now I'm going to put my gecko over the top. So I don't want it too light. I want it kind of contrasting a little bit with the yellow of what I'm about to create with the gecko itself. So this is my first layer. And I'm just playing around with some textures. I can rotate to see the kind of imprint that's going on. I'm going to create a new layer in a minute. Oh, I might just put in some different kind of shades of yellow. Just see how that looks. That's looking a little bit better as I kind of do a yellow fill underneath and kind of over the top. That's looking a little bit more natural there. So I changed the black to a yellow and it's underneath my brush strokes, which is great. I'm going to create a new layer now. Oh, hang on, let me just do a little bit more colors there. Let me just see if I can kind of broaden stroke over there. That's looking pretty good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in my gecko. My gecko is going to be kind of the highlight, the hero of my piece, and it's going to go over the top. So if I create a new layer, and if I go up to my little spanner tool right up here, yep, and I go to insert a photo. Now, this photo here is actually just a keynote shape of a lizard or a gecko from Keynote that I've made into an image. So I'm just going to grab that. I'm going to grab the black one. And when I bring it in, I can pinch now. I can move it around and I can resize. Remember, it's a different layer, which is great. So I'm going to resize it, get it how I want, and then I'm going to hit the little arrow at the top left-hand corner to get rid of moving it around so you can see what it looks like there. So that's looking great. Let's go up to the arrow, click on it, and it kind of puts it down there. You can see there, it's kind of beautiful. I'm going to go up to my layers palette. I'm going to click on the gecko itself here, and I'm going to alpha lock it. That means I can do a brush stroke over the top, and my brush stroke is only going to be applied to that shape itself. So when I press that now, and let's go up to my color palette and go to yellow, I'm going to stick with the same Blackwood brush because I love it. It kind of works in beautifully. I'm going to go over here. I've got a yellow palette. Now, when I do big brush strokes now, it's only going to be applied to the gecko. So this is super cool. See how it's just applied to the gecko? And I'm just going to keep going over my gecko until I'm kind of happy with it. I'll just do a little bit on the head as well. And then I'm going to go up to my layers again. So that's looking pretty good, but I want it kind of burnt into the surfboard. I want like a burnt kind of color effect. So I'm going to go up to my here, and I'm going to come over to this little symbol here, which will allow me to colorize it if I want and change the context. But if I go over to the little N here, I'm able to do a little bit more with my effects of my gecko. So I'm going to kind of scroll down the bottom here and have a look at what I can do. I can change the opacity if I'd like. I'm going to leave it at 100%. And I'm going to go down to the color dodge, because the color dodge is kind of what I actually want. That's beautiful. Kind of gives me that kind of burn element, which looks really, I think, great with this design. So that's basically, I've done the top of my surfboard. That's looking really great. I need to do a new layer for underneath it. I'm not going to touch the fins in this tutorial. I'm just going to go underneath, and I want kind of like a wavy brush. So I'm going to go with my ocean brush for the underneath bit. So I'll go over here, and I'm going to go to, I don't think it's organic, I think it's elements. Let me check in the elements. Yep, I think it's elements, and I'm going to go with this kind of ocean brush, and I'm just going to play around with the context. I don't want it too kind of contrasting in regard to colors. I want a nice kind of flow. So, you know, if I did a yellow kind of wave on the bottom, that's looking pretty great. I might do a blue to select over the waves. That's a bit too contrasting to the top of my board. I want a little bit more flow. So don't forget, I'm going to do a 2-finger tap to undo any brushes that I do. So if you're new to Procreate, a 2-finger tap on yours will allow you to undo your last kind of brush stroke. That's looking a little bit better, having that yellow and brown kind of wave. So I've got that beautiful blackwood texture on top. I've got my beautiful wave kind of similar color palette on the bottom. And then we can do some other stuff with it. We can go up to our cog up here. We can go to our 3D settings and have a look at our lighting just to make sure and double check our lighting's okay. We can change the environment. I'll show you that in a minute. You can even add another light if you like. Now, this won't come through on a USDZ file, so don't worry too much about the lighting with USDZ, but really good to kind of give a showpiece to your surfboard in regard to playing around with some of the lightings. You can change the hue and the color of the lights that's applied. You can come up here to the environment itself, and you can change the environment. See there, you can kind of get some different contexts and contrasting colors there. The purple doesn't look great, but it just gives you a bit of a highlight. You can see the lighting effect on the surfboard now, which is super cool. And then to finish off, we go up to our little spanners again, and we go to share, and we think about how we'd like to share it. We can have like animated GIFs and animated files if you want to share it on the web. For me, I use Reality Composer quite a lot, so I'm going to export that as a USDZ file, because I want to be able to bring it into augmented reality and have a play with this scale, see how big the surfboard is, and kind of layer it in my house itself, which is super cool. I'm going to save that to my files, which is great. And if I go to my Files app now, you can see that hopefully will come up in my recent. There it is there. If I do a long press and do an AR quick look on that, I can actually view that in augmented reality as well, which is super cool. I can move it around, copy it, get some information on it, and so forth. And once again, at any stage, you can jump back into Procreate and play around with your settings. So if you're not happy with this purpley kind of background, I'm not exactly happy with that, how that's looking. So I might go back and just play around with the 3D lighting effects and the environment that it actually sits in. So here we go back here. You can see here, I might select something that's a little bit, yeah, that nightlife's not that nice kind of brown kind of context as well. So that's basically our tutorial today. You've just made an indigenous inspired surfboard design. Super easy. Hopefully you've learnt some new skills like alpha lock and how you can apply some of these beautiful new brushes in Procreate. This is Paul Hamilton from Using Technology Better. Send us a link, send us a comment. Love to know what you think. Paul Hamilton here, signing off.